I brought Larry up here as a visual aid here in a little bit. Basically, I had a good time trying to put this together. I've been putting it together for the last 2 weeks. I've chosen my confirmation verse today, which is Isaiah 41, verse 10, to share this with you. Isaiah 41:10 reads as follows. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Now, I don't know an adjective from an adverb, but the thing here is there are many things here that God has promised us in this verse. I chose Isaiah 41:10 as my confirmation verse when I was in 8th grade and 14 years old. I really don't have any idea why I chose this verse as my confirmation verse, because I was so young at the time. As I reflect on this verse, it did have great meaning to me later in life. The main ideas in this verse are, do not fear. I will strengthen you, help you, and uphold you. Generally, I have not been a fearful person. I have had fearful moments just like anyone else. I have been rescued many times by God. I have felt the presence of God many times. Not always have I felt the presence during the time, but as I reflect, I feel it. I have examples of a few times when I have felt the presence of God and have been rescued. Some of these examples I'm about to share with you, Janine will be hearing for the first time. Many years ago, while I was coaching wrestling at Rich Central, I was wrestling with a state tournament qualifier who was larger than I was in preparation for the state tournament. He decided to do a maneuver that was illegal in high school wrestling. However, it's legal in freestyle wrestling in the international rules. I'm going to bring Larry up here now just to kind of show you what it's about. This is called a suplex. That's only the first fourth of it. What's supposed to happen with this maneuver is in freestyle, the person behind, which was Larry, as he pops back, he goes into a bridge. And the idea is that the upper shoulder blades of my back are supposed to land on the mat first. That will absorb his fall as he goes back. And it's an instant pin because both shoulder blades are touching the mat simultaneously for that long. As you can see, that can be a dangerous situation. Fortunately, I was able to tuck my head and land on my shoulders and not on my head. Many years ago, I was getting snow off the driveway when I slipped on the ice and landed on my back first, as opposed to my behind. If I had rotated more, I would have landed on my head. If I didn't tuck my head, I might have slammed my head against the concrete. You need to realize that when I say I tucked my head in these two situations, I believed that I had help in getting that accomplished. I was fly fishing in New York State in 2016 when I stepped onto a large boulder that was wet from an earlier rain, and I had the same kind of fall that I had on the ice. Fortunately, that morning, it was a chilly morning, so I had packed a sweatshirt and a jacket in the back of my backpack. When I slipped and fell, I landed first right on my back, on the backpack, which broke my fall. In February of 2000, I woke up one morning with chest pain and was having a heart attack. We made several mistakes that morning deciding what to do before we ended up at the hospital, which diagnosed that I was having a heart attack. I was moved from one hospital to another by ambulance and had emergency surgery with 3 stents put in the arteries of my heart. By the grace of God, I was able to pull through. God did provide the surgeon who placed the stents in my artery in a kind of a strange way. You see, he was there to perform preventive surgery on a patient that they had found that he had blockage in his arteries. So basically, his surgery was postponed while they did my emergency surgery. In May of 2020, I was hit by a pickup truck riding my bicycle while making a left-hand turn. The truck hit the last 4 inches of the rear tire, and as I slid into second base, so to speak, the truck did not make any contact with me. The sweatpants that I was wearing didn't even have a tear. So basically, I was rescued there again. So many times we think that we were saved by chance or that we have this sixth sense. I was at softball practice for our church league team many years ago. I was watching both Angela and Matt. Janine had something else that she had to do. For a moment, I was involved in what I was doing and did not know that Matt was headed to danger. Just at the right time, when there was not enough time to think about what to do. I lost my place here. Matt was headed for the slide, which was a pretty tall one. He was about 2.5 years old and was getting ready to climb the ladder on the top of the slide. I alerted Angela, and we ran to the slide. It was too late for me to go up the ladder to get Matt. So I sent Angela up the ladder to get him. I waited underneath in case he fell. He was at the top of the slide and looked down, and you could see that he was afraid and realized that he had gotten himself into trouble. Children at that age, when they sit down, they just kind of lean back like this and plop down on their behind. Basically, his hips were beyond the platform, so he went into a 1.5 backward somersault. And I caught him by his hips when his head was about 2 feet off the ground. His head would have hit the ground first. So can you imagine the guilt that I would have had, because that changes everything in Matt's life. The sixth sense that we're talking about is really God speaking to us. I caught Matt just like our Heavenly Father catches us. I believe God catches us more than we are aware. So many times I've heard Joyce Meyer speak, and she talks about God was talking to me and I was talking to God, and I thought, lady, you're a little bit nuts. But then when I start thinking more about it and reflect more on my life, and if all of us would reflect more on our life, I think we would all realize how much God has interacted with us, and maybe we didn't even know it. I cannot explain why I made it through these situations. I feel for those who have been seriously hurt or have died and gone home to be with the Lord. I also feel for their families who were left behind. I often wonder, why me? Why have I been rescued so far? God promised He would be with us to the end of the age. He did not promise that we would be rescued in every instance. When it is my time to pass on from this mortal life, I will rejoice that I am with Jesus in heaven for eternity. At this time, I want to have a personal thank you for Yvonne. And basically, what's about to happen here is we're about to have the footprints in the sand played on the screen. The author is unknown. There are some copyrights for it. So it took Yvonne a little bit more effort to do this so that we wouldn't get into any trouble. Since I am not sure I can't finish this reading this poem, we're going to play this on the monitor. And I thank very much Yvonne and Ron Harris for their work in getting this accomplished.
One night, a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene, he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to him and the other to the Lord. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life, there was only one set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened at the very lowest and saddest times in his life. This really bothered him, and he questioned the Lord about it. Lord, you said that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I have noticed that during the most troublesome times in my life, there's only one set of footprints. I don't understand why, when I needed you most, you would leave me. The Lord replied, my son, my precious child, I love you and I would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you.